whatever the current system is that we have to, these rules that we have to play by, then like my job is to just figure out how to be successful in that system. It's kind of like, and I don't play video games, but people that play video games, you're bound by the rules of that game, right? I don't waste my time, for lack of a better word, bitching about the rules of the game. I just try to play within those confines and figure out a way to win, right? And you do that through a series of failures, and over time, through death in the game and respawning and going and doing it and experiencing those failures over time, you can have a positive outcome. And so, like, for me, it's like, is there not also a thing where it's so polarizing, but like when Obama was president, let's say that I didn't vote for Obama, right? And I didn't want him to be there. I still thrived during Obama. Thrived during Trump. I'm thrived during Clinton. It doesn't matter for the most part. There's people that have a mentality of we're gonna succeed no matter what, and whatever the rules are, we just need to know what they are, and then let's move forward. I almost wonder if there doesn't need to be a shift in the way that people think, because I'm not waiting on the government to save me. And my kind of view is they're going to do whatever they're going to do, and some of it's beyond my control. Like you said, hey, the largest audience you're ever going to have is this. It's all down here from there. And that's in jest, but on some level, my opinions matter very little when you compare them to, hundreds of millions of other people. So for me, it's like I try not to waste a whole lot of energy getting down or, positive or negative about what's going on. Instead, I just go, you know what, this is what's happened. And it's irrelevant how I feel about it at this point. Let's just, all right, here's the new rules. Let's play by these rules. What do we do from here?
Well, there's also value. This is a conversation that I've wanted to have with Neil for a while, and we haven't had it yet. But I tend to be more of the type that sits back and watches the world go by.
Right.
Because I'm disenchanted and I don't trust in my ability to implement change. That said, there is value in having people who are engaged in the system. There is value in studying the rules. There's value in studying the rules simply because it's fun and you enjoy it, like I do. But there is also value in trying to change things. I mean, the world is changing constantly.
Right.
And it is, there's an acquaintance of mine always said that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and change. To go back to Heraclitus, it's a great quote. The only constant. I mean, he didn't word it like this, but the only constant is change. Is basically what he meant. The world is going to change. It has been changing for the last 60,000 years. Nothing stays the same. I mean, there are all these cute quotes that, the more the things change, the more they stay the same. There's some truth in that. But the truth is the world is changing constantly.
Right.
And you have to know that it does change and adapt as things change. And it is being changed by someone. So it makes sense for some people that have the courage or the inclination to be the ones that say, well, I'm going to study the issues, I'm going to become politically engaged, and I'm going to be part of what makes those changes. And change is complex, and it is in fits and starts, and there are changes that we like, there are changes that don't like, and they're always very complex. And the virtue of our representative forms of government, with all their flaws, is that, we go in fits and starts. We try things, we don't like them, we do course corrections. So, I'm going to get derailed a little. I'm finally going to tell you about the Stoic philosophy and the Epicurean philosophy.
Okay.
And that goes back to the Hellenistic period after Alexander the Great, simplifying it 200 BC or something like that.
Yeah.
And what happened then was the worldview that a lot of people had was that the world was going to pot. They had gone through classic Greece. They thought that the world was great, and they were confident. They liked the way that things were going. But by the Hellenistic period, people are becoming really downcast as to how things are going. They feel that things are in decline, that they are losing political freedom, that things don't matter. And in the Hellenistic period, there are two big schools, two philosophical schools that address this issue. One is the Stoic school. And that school basically, what they thought can be summarized saying, you may not understand everything that is going on, but things happen very often. When you first look at them, oh my God, that really hurt me. But if you think hard about it, there was an ultimate reason why it happened, and in the end, you became stronger. And the Stoic school thought that there was some ultimate power, call it reason, call it God, call it providence, that meant that the world was rational, that the world was good, and that even though we didn't understand all the things that happen on a day-to-day basis, we were moving in the right path. Yeah. And your duty as an individual was to act as a rational person, being politically engaged and active, trying to make the world as good as possible, and to not be discouraged when something bad happens. Because ultimately there's a providence and there's a reason, and even if you don't understand everything, the world's a good place and it's going to get better, especially if you play your part. That's the Stoic school. There was another school of thought, which named after a guy named Epicurus, is the Epicurean school, who basically said, the world's going to pot. Nothing makes any sense. Any efforts that you make to be good, politics are so corrupt that if you lift your head up, your head gets chopped off. I'm disgusted with the world. I have no trust that anything will ever get better. And all that I can do, if I get involved in politics, it's so nasty, it's so dirty, and we think politics is nasty today. Back then, people got assassinated on a routine basis. Politics is so nasty that if you get involved, you have to become immoral. And for the Epicureans, the only way to lead a happy, good, moral life was to withdraw from the world and to retire to your private garden with your friends and family. You still had to live, you still had to make money, you still had to go to work. But the moral thing, the ethical thing to do was to withdraw from the evil world. You can think of them a little like the Amish in a sense, in that they've decided the English are all messed up. We are going to have our private world where things are done right.
So pessimistic.
So those are those two worldviews. And I find thinking of the Stoics and the Epicureans very useful when I'm posed with questions in life.
Yeah.
And I think we all have some Stoic tendencies. We all have some Epicurean tendencies. Mm-hmm. And in the end, you want the world to be populated by Stoics.
Yeah.
So that they don't get discouraged and they try to implement change. Yeah. And for instance, I see a lot of Stoicism in the civil rights movement, where it's people that were being beat down, but somehow they had confidence that somehow there was light at the end of the tunnel, that there was a providence, an ultimate goodness in human nature, that things were going to get better if you worked at them. Me personally, I must confess, I am getting more and more Epicurean every day.
That makes me think about biology. And what I mean is, actually the Stoic ideology seems more like a biological way of thinking. You think of, in biology, everything is evolving. Evolution is not just biological, but it's also ideological. And if we look at ourselves as a species, the human race, Homo sapiens, I think our natural biological evolution is to want to thrive. It's about fitness, right? So we have to survive as a species, and which makes me feel hopeful because that would be more along the idea of the Stoicism, where the more we cooperate, the better our societies become, the better our fitness, and the better our potential for survival and spreading our societies and our species. So maybe that's why things are getting better because we're learning to cooperate with each other better, and that's it's really more of a biological thing than an ideological thing.
Yeah, I've wanted to have this conversation with you for a while because I've long thought that you're a Stoic.
Yeah, I'm naturally optimistic. So
yeah, you have this. Yeah. I look at the data and I read the data to tell me that the last 250 years have gotten better.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I have, is this a fluke? And are we going to mess it all up tomorrow?
Well, this year makes me wonder, but yeah, makes me question a lot of things.
Well, look at this year though, and this comes back to it. So, all these things have happened, right? And I don't know where this presents itself in history, but there are some people that turtled up, right? That kind of recluded back into their home, their shelter, their whatever, right? And that's how they live their life, and that's how they're surviving 2020. There are people like me that did the opposite of that, right? And like, what's right? Who knows what's right, right? But for me, maybe it's Stoicism. For me, it's a survival thing. Like, if we lived in a third world country and my family was starving, there are risks just for me going out in the world trying to provide for my family, trying to feed my family, right? I could die from any one of those things. But the alternative for me is to sit and starve with my family. Like, that's not a solution. And like, so when I look at what's going on here, I can't let fear dictate how I live my life. So I've got to go out and conquer the world, no matter what the circumstances are, And so I don't know what that viewpoint is, but to me, it's, the world is going to move forward. We've been through, if you look at the history of America or the history of the world, we've been through many, many, many terrible things. This is just one more thing. And, we'll come out on the other side and everybody's going to claim to be an expert when they're looking in arrears. And they're all going to say they had the solution. But the reality for me is just survive. Like, it's just move forward, it's produce, it's take care of your family, it's survive. The rules to my game have changed a little bit, but I'm still playing. Right. You
sound more like an Epicurean.
Oh yeah.
He's pretty optimistic though.
Yeah.
Yeah.